And welcome to the presentation. My name is Jeremiah Simmons. This video is for NetV 378 Systems Administration. This is my PowerPoint presentation. And today I'm going to be talking about firewalls. I'm going to be giving a brief overview of them, a little bit of history, where to use them, when to use them, and why to use them. Alright, well let's get started by having a look at what is a firewall. A firewall is a system designed to prevent unauthorized access to or from a network. Firewalls can be implemented in both hardware and software, or even a combination of the both. How are firewalls used? Firewalls are frequently used to prevent unauthorized internet users from accessing private network connections to the internet, especially intranets. All packets entering or leaving an intranet pass through a firewall, which examines each of those packets and blocks the ones that do not meet a specified security criteria. They are necessary in the protection of a network and are used to keep out malicious content and individuals. When exploring a topic, it's always good to give a little bit of history behind it, especially in technology-related stuff. So the original origin of the word firewall goes back to, they believe, 1851. It obviously means fire plus wall. It was a wall used to protect valuable stuff from being damaged. They believe this is the origin of the word. Many people claim to have invented the word firewall when referring to network defense, but there's no clear answer to who first used firewall to describe a piece of software or hardware protecting the network from the internet. Moving on, we look at the first generation. About 1985, that's the introduction of the first true firewall. The first type of firewall was the packet filter, which looks at a network's address and ports of the packets and then uses that to determine if the packet should be allowed or blocked. The first paper published on firewall technology was in 1988. That was when engineers from Digital Equipment Corporation, or DEC, which is what most people know it by, they developed a filter system known as the packet filter firewall. And then we go on to second generation. This was the era between 1989 and 1990. Second generation saw three colleagues from AT&T Bell Laboratories. They developed firewalls, calling them circuit level gateways. Second generation firewalls could perform the work of their first generation predecessors, but could operate up to layer 4 of the OSI model. This is achieved by retaining packets until enough information is available to make a judgment about them, and then from there they could block them or allow them to pass. And then we look at third generation, which was around 1991. Third generation introduced the application firewall, known as Firewall Toolkit, or FWTK. In June 1994, the Firewall Toolkit was extended with the kernel enhancement of IP filter and socket transparent. This was the first transparent application firewall and kind of revolutionized the whole concept of firewalls. It brought firewalls to the industry. Firewalls now had a barcode on them. You could go and purchase them. They weren't something that you had to have special ordered for your network. This was the introduction of the modern firewall. And then we look at what they call fourth generation. This was 1994. This was pretty much the introduction of friendly firewalls. Firewalls that a consumer could go and buy and just set up. You didn't have to have a network specialist, a system administrator there to set up your home firewall. You could just do it pretty much straight out of the box. You had applications that you could install, and it was pretty quick, pretty simple to walk through. So now that we're looking at modern firewalls today, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the two different types of firewalls, software and hardware. We're just going to kind of examine each of those. The first one we're going to look at is software. Software is the easier of the two to use for a home network user, home network installer. Software firewalls are installed on the computer just like any other piece of software. Software firewalls allow you to customize themselves. They allow you to tweak and modify the security settings usually, so you can customize any rules if you need to. Software firewalls will protect your computer that you install it on from outside attempts to control the computer or gain access to the computer. A software firewall works by monitoring the inbound and outbound connections on the computer, and then it examines the information passed along these connections. If an information packet contains something that goes against the the rules of the firewall, then that information packet is blocked. It's pretty effective. It's very straightforward, but like I said, it's very effective and it's very cost efficient. You can see that the pricing goes between $30 to $70 for a piece of software, firewall software. It's usually always under $100. Top brands include Komodo, Kaspersky, ZoneAlarm. Down there at the bottom you see McAfee. McAfee used to be at the top, but the last half a decade it seems to be dropping down. But if you stick with Komodo, Kaspersky, ZoneAlarm, one of those pieces, you won't go wrong. It'll keep you protected. The advantages of software firewalls, like I said, are they're cost efficient compared to hardware. It's very cost efficient. They're effective. However, if you're looking at like a small business network, if you have to install firewalls on every single one of the computers, that gets to be time consuming. It'll rack up in cost pretty quick. So that's where you kind of want to look at hardware firewalls. But for home use, software firewalls should do the trick just fine. And then moving on from there, we're going to look at hardware firewalls. Hardware firewalls can be purchased as a standalone unit, a standalone physical unit, but more commonly they're found included into a broadband router. If you opt for a standalone firewall or due to the size of the layout of the network, a standalone firewall is usually located in the network between the modem connecting to the internet and the switch. It's placed right there as kind of as a sentry guard between the modem and the rest of your network. It acts as a funnel. Everything through your network funnels through the firewall before connecting to the internet. So you should consider this when purchasing a firewall, because if you don't get one with sufficient capability, everything's going to be funneling through that, and if your network's too big for the firewall, stuff's going to get loaded down, and it's not going to be a good day for your network. Firewalls use several techniques. Different firewalls use different techniques to properly secure the network. One of these methods is packet filtering. A packet filter looks at each packet entering and leaving a network and accepts or rejects it based on user-defined rules. Packet filtering is fairly effective. However, some downsides of packet filtering is that at times it's difficult to configure properly so that it filters and blocks the correct packages and doesn't block ones it shouldn't be blocking. In addition to this, packet filtering is susceptible to IP sniffing, so that's another vulnerability. Another technique used by routers, firewalls, is application gateway. Application gateway applies security mechanisms to specific applications such as FTP and Telnet servers. It's very effective, but it has the cost of performance degradation. It will slow down the connection quite a bit. Another technique is circuit level gateway, which applies security mechanisms when a TCP or UDP connection is established. Once the connection is established, packets flow between the hosts without further checking. This can allow you to really speed up your network rather than having that stuff go through the firewall. It can just flow freely without having to be checked. A proxy server is another technique. Proxy servers intercept all messages entering and leaving the network. Proxy servers are effective because they hide the network addresses of the items on your network. They're very effective and are very commonly used. Most firewalls use a combination of techniques in order to secure a network. In addition to using firewalls, you can encrypt your network as well. which just adds extra levels of security and protection for the network. Some downsides about hardware firewalls, are sometimes price. The price can be daunting. You can look at several hundred to several $1,000s for a proper firewall piece of equipment. Top brands include, of course, Cisco. Cisco's always used by all the government systems, mainly use Cisco. Fortinet, SonicWall, Juniper, Netgear. For home use, I saw more people are leaning towards Fortinet and SonicWall. They have some really good home solutions for hardware firewalls. Very cost effective, only a couple $100s. And then you're going to have your whole home network or small business network secured, and you're not going to have to worry too much about intrusions and malware attacking your network from the outside. Upsides, like I said, is you don't have to go install software on every piece of equipment on your network. Some people still do, and you can't. It is a good practice to still have software and hardware in conjunction. But having a physical piece of hardware firewall just gives you kind of the umbrella safety net over your whole network.
So to finish out my presentation, I wanted to just give kind of a hands-on look at a few different examples of firewalls, both software and hardware. Just a few different options you can look at. First off, looking at some software, this is ZoneAlarm. I've used ZoneAlarm for several years. It's a great firewall. It's really light on your computer. It doesn't take up too much CPU room. And as you can see, even the professional version will keep you under $100. But it does everything it needs to do. It does packet filtering really well. You have options. You can go in, you can customize the trusted and the blocked IPs, IP ranges, hosts. You can do that no problem just right here. And like I said, it runs great. I only had issues back when Windows upgraded to Windows 8, I believe. There were some issues with ZoneAlarm, but ZoneAlarm, they put out updates pretty regular. So any kind of issue, they'll take care of it, and it'll keep your computer protected. Then looking over here at some hardware, these are Dell's SonicWalls. These are their solutions for smaller businesses, home networks. It provides, a nice little firewall. I've worked with a few of these as well, and they're great little devices. Looking at the price, you can see, of course, it'll run you between $300 and $1,200. But, for a small business, that's going to be a great investment. Like I said, never had any issues with these. Great little devices. The TZ600, which I've worked with, you have 10 interfaces. So for like a small business, you might not even need a switch. It might just be enough connections right here without even a switch. Through speed ranges, up to 1.5 gigabits per second, which isn't as fast as the large business firewalls, but for a small business, for a home network, 1.5 gigabits per second, or even 750 megabits per second, that's going to get you by just fine, no problem. And of course, it allows for VPN to be set up, no problem. That works really well. It gives you support for all the encryption you'll need, DES, all the AES encryption. And one nice thing about this is it does support mobile connections, iOS and Android, even Fire. It handles them just fine, so it'll keep your devices as well, your mobile devices, protected on your network. It of course does packet inspection. It has what Dell calls their deep packet inspection, which does a really good job just filtering out bad stuff and keeping bad stuff out. I've been really impressed on how well it does that. And it does, of course, content filtering. You can set that all up any which way you like. And like I said, just a great little machine. And you'll have Dell's support, and Dell's, the name of Dell, they'll keep you taken care of. So this has been my presentation on firewalls, again for NetV378. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I hope you learned something. If not, I hope it wasn't too terrible to sit through. And like I said, thank you for listening.